Hi friends, welcome to ET Connections. Today we are interviewing Jeffrey Crawford, who has 40 years in broadcasting, film production, and post-production for hundreds of television stations worldwide. He also has decades of experience with contact and lots of experiences with that. And today we're going to be interviewing him particularly about some recent footage he has sent to us. So Jeffrey, we would love to know more about the experience that you had and the footage you sent.
The most recent one is like in my backyard on my porch. Bought a little Waz camera for $25 just to watch the hummingbirds and the squirrels and everything, and then suddenly I started capturing little things at night. And then the first one was in May. And that one was, I was doing the CE5 meditation and the crop circle tones.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for like a couple hours, and it was early evening. And I had to go to the store for the wife. And I have a sensor on the camera, and anything that moves, it records it, you know what I mean? So, so what happened is, like, I'm at the store, suddenly the sensors are coming on, and then these 4 orbs that were flying in sequence came in front of the camera really close. So I was like, oh no. I was talking to someone on, I can't remember who it was on Messenger, and I was like showing him, look at this. And he went, wow, what is that? We're trying to figure it out. So I rushed home. I didn't even finish going to the store, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then coming back, you know, like, then it's like, it was later in the night, then these, I kind of see them and it were like rods raining, and I get bugs flying through the camera all the time. They're translucent. And what I've was getting is this like rod flying into the speaker of the walkie-talkie when I was using the ringtone.
Whoa.
Wow.
And you couldn't see it with the naked eye, but with the infrared, you could see this. And then those 4 orbs came back around the tree lines where the hummingbirds and the sparrows live and the blue jays live, and around their home. And it was like just hovering around like this. So moving forward, you know, for the past few months, they keep returning over and over again. I don't know what they are. I'm trying to figure what they are. So
Wow, that is really, really fascinating. And when I first saw the footage you had sent, I was just blown away by it, because that is really crystal clear footage. And what's really interesting is that this entity, or whatever it is, does a really good job of mimicking what looks to be like a reflection or some kind of lens flare with its movements. But the interesting thing is, we had seen you had moved your camera, and when you moved your camera, the orbs didn't react as a reflection should have.
And
exactly.
Also,
Sorry.
Good.
It was also that not only was there the rod of 4, but there was a high 5th one. And in a reflection, the fact is you could see the orb, and that was just out over the sky. If it were a reflection, I would not expect to see that high one showing up as an actual circle or anything. So to me, that was a very particularly interesting part of that.
And I sent you a link to the YouTube clip. I mean, so one of the links, this is the other night before last, and the one you're talking about. And I was trying to debunk it. Like, I thought it was a flare too, off the porch light. Yeah. And then I was moving. That's why I was putting my finger in front of the camera, just like show people like, this is not a flare, you know. And then I repositioned the camera, because if you have, you know, usually a flare will hit the part of the lens and create that effect.
Yeah.
So that's why I moved it. And I thought, wow, it's not. And then it was reacting to the laser every time it actually hit. And actually, there's 6 of them. If you look under the very top, it looks like a string.
It does. Yeah.
And it reminds me like a wick of a candle in a way. And it's interesting how it's moving. It moves around the reaction to the laser light, it reacts. And if you look at the video, on the 15-minute video,
Yeah.
I was trying to make it move towards the light, the porch light. I was like, kind of like, guide, come over here. And I asked it to come closer, and it did. It was starting to come closer. It had like a fear factor. It's like we weren't sure of each other. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure of you. Come on, closer. All love and intention, you know? So.
Absolutely. It's such amazing footage. And I know that people are going to see this and they're going to obviously try to debunk it too, which is fine. We're supposed to have natural curiosity about this. So I'm sure they'll have questions like, were you behind glass at the time, or were you totally outside?
I was totally outside the whole time. A couple times I'm right at the edge of the porch inside, sitting on a chair, you know, just waiting. And there's not much room I have. I have feeders and tables and stuff like that taking up most of the porch there. So like I stand out there, and when I notice it on the sensor, like it's going away. And what it does, a couple times it knocks out my camera completely.
Oh.
Or I have to reset the camera.
Wow.
And I had this camera here is a brand new one. The other one got knocked out. It completely fried it for some reason.
Wow.
I don't know what happened, but I had to replace the camera, you know? So like, and then it would freeze it's on a Wi-Fi. So it would freeze the Wi-Fi, and I have to reset that too. And then that was the other night too. That's exactly what happened. So I reset the Wi-Fi and everything, and I went, okay, I got to go out here and really focus on it. You know what I mean? Because they're coming every night. And not only that, the rods are coming. Like, I posted something where there's a whole series of them. Look like you get mosquitoes and spiders flying through a lens, and then they come. They might come off on a trail, but you can see the wings or something. But these are solid, thick, and they happen within a second, not like a couple seconds. Anything flying like 60, 70 yards away is going to take 2 or 3 seconds to get to, even a small insect.
Yeah.
It's based on focal point, you know what I mean? As far as the distance of the camera to the eye. So I have a little cinematography experience, and I don't want people to debunk it because I know that, but it's just like, it does help to me to debunk whatever is happening, like flares or anything like that. So I could show people all the bugs I get, which is hours and hours of bugs. I just, take a couple seconds here and there, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the other thing I was going to bring up, is that you do have experience working with lenses and cinematography and some photography. And both of us, we have, conjointly about 20 years experience with photography. And we have encountered plenty of lens flares and plenty of insects flying around. And what you have captured is definitely not an insect. I mean, my mind went so far as to think, well, what if it is a spider web and it's just like caught on another thing we can't see, and those are 4 little insects in there. And then I'm like, nah, also impossible, because it shows up multiple times. It's the same shape. It'll even be in different angles in your other videos. So that's also an impossibility. And the fact that your equipment was going out, that is another telltale sign of contact for sure.
That's a big one. Our equipment has been shut down many times in the field.
I mean, just literally freeze, and then, the camera frying. I mean, I had to replace the camera. And then, like, right away, I got to get another one right away. I can't lose a minute of this, because, you know what I mean? It fries it, and where can I find and those Woz cameras are only $25, so it's not like a big loss, it's not like I'm losing hundreds of dollars trying to replace these little cameras. And that's the best part. They're almost disposable. And then they record in HD on top of that. You're able to use the app and capture and record, and then and then download it to your phone. And at that point, you can edit it down to where because it will capture up to 30-40 seconds, and these things last, like, on most part, a couple minutes maybe. And then this last one was hours. It was all the way up to the crack of dawn. I stayed up all night.
Wow, I'm sure we would have done the same thing.
I just, like, it keeps going. I want to keep going with it, and until it goes away, and until the sun rises, and that's when it went away. It's just like I was tired. I think it was tired too.
Oh, that's
You know,
interesting.
but you feel that energy the whole time, and it's just like, it's not the excitement, it's the energy coming off of what you're seeing and what you're feeling from it, especially what you're feeling from it. So it's amazing. I can't explain what it is. I have no idea where it's coming from. I'm still trying to figure it out. The only thing I could think of is connected to the birds, because what I asked for is, I've told you this in the podcast, like, hey, can you bring the hummingbirds, more hummingbirds? Can you bring the sparrows and the hummingbirds together so they can live next to each other instead of and that's what happens. And then, like today, several dozen blue jays show up, and I'm feeding them peanuts, and they're eating me out of house and home right now on the peanut farm. So, but it's very, it's very good to feel. And then, I know they're connected to the birds. I have this feeling. I'm not for a fact, but that's my vibe I get off it.
Yeah, that's important to listen to, that the inner voice, and I would certainly agree with you on that. And I wanted to ask, so you did your CE5 protocols first, and then you started seeing this phenomenon, and it's been happening ever since?
Right. And especially with the tones, they'll show up without the tones. They'll show up without me being there. I don't know, most of the time too. And even when I'm asleep, even when I'm away, gone, they show up. I was on, vacation, they were showing up and everything. And that's when the camera got knocked out, when I was coming back, and my son was, I'm rushing back, trying to replace it, like I was saying. And it's like, to get it back online right away, not to miss a second, because every day there's something going on. And it's like, again, every time something happens, I try to debunk it right off the bat. So it's like, it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing here. I have the visual proof of what I'm saying, so.
Yeah, that is really, really cool footage that you've got. So we really appreciate you sharing that with us and telling us about your experience with that, and for having us on your podcast just yesterday. That's really cool.
Yeah, we would love if you would share with our viewers about your podcast.
Okay, folks, this is it. Giant Rock Podcast, George Van Tassel, the Integratron. We talk about George Van Tassel, one of the first contactees from the 1950s, excuse me. He had a universal global space conference every year for almost 20 years at Giant Rock. And Giant Rock represents a geometric highway full of energy, vortexes, granite quartz crystals, massive UFO sightings. Anybody that goes there, there's some type of energy that's going on there. And the Integratron is one of these amazing places that George Van Tassel spent his whole life building, never got to completely finish. Good documentary to watch about George Van Tassel is Calling All Earthlings. That's on Amazon right now. And I recommend everybody watching that if they want to know about Giant Rock, George Van Tassel. But I used to live in Yucca Valley as a kid in the mid-60s. I'm 60 years old. But anyways, when I was growing up, I barely knew how to talk. It was my dog and myself in the backyard of the desert. It was our playground. We used to play there all the time. Abandoned houses were kind of part of our playground. Anyways, I ended up missing for a couple days. I don't know what happened. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still researching what happened to me. I was gone for 2.5 days. The Marines, there's a Marine base at 29 Palms, was doing a line looking for me. I ended up, like I said, I know the backyard, and the desert was my backyard. And there was no way I could be lost when it come to think about it years later. But I ended up waking up in the desert, my dog pushing me towards town. I didn't know how to talk. And a man in the truck grabbed me. Hey, you're so-and-so. You're the kid that's missing. Took me to my parents' house, and police, cherry top cop car lights everywhere. And I just bits and pieces of memory I remember of this. And I was pushed through a car door window, and I didn't even get out of the car. They just passed me through the window to my mom and dad. And I remember that. And we shortly moved after away from there to Minnesota. Anyways, years later, I had a premonition to go there. And this is like 4 years ago. And then I had this premonition, something happened at this church over here, going towards Landers, which is north of Yucca Valley. And Yucca Valley is next to Joshua Tree, everybody, just to let you know. It's Joshua Tree and Yucca Valley are one and the same, basically. There's a lot of energy, and people know about Joshua Tree. There's a lot of vortexes and a lot of energy there. So, like, over the years, like, I had many sightings, but going back to when I had this premonition and going to this church, I remember going to Sunday school as a kid, and it was hot outside. It was the summer, and we're wearing long white sleeve shirts with a black tie, and and I remember hitting the side of the building and scraping my side. And then everybody, because we were running, look at that! Everybody pointed at, and the whole school saw the whole 3 or 4 UFOs in the sky, and then that came the memory just like that out of nowhere. I don't know what happened. So I started going down the rabbit hole, Google searching what happened up here, start looking north of Yucca Valley and found Landers and Tegatron. And that's where I started finding all these different things. So doing my research, I found out I'm related to Daniel Boone. And Yogi Gandhi told Daniel Boone, not the pioneer Daniel Boone, but a disciple of him that's related to Daniel Boone, to go out to the desert, to meet the man George Van Tassel and talk to him. Well, he ended up marrying his daughter and having children. And I find out I'm related. On top of that, I'm the 16th cousin. So, like, going down this rabbit hole, I find all these things out. And just on that one premonition, and I had like this feeling I had to go there. And that's where it just opened. So I decided to do a podcast and everything. So this is where I'm at,
Wow.
And like I was saying, I've seen sightings through my whole life growing up, living in Arizona, living near the reservation, Pima Reservation, always things going out there. And going to the Navajo Reservation. I'm part American Indian myself. I'm part Delaware and Arapaho, and I have papers. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I feel special with it. I'm connected to Mother Earth with it. How you feel? I mean, part of the tribe, and we're all one, anyways. We're all unity, and that's the indigenous people always believed that there were unity as one. So that's where I'm at.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that sentiment. And we are so thrilled that you're a part of the CE5 movement and helping to get the word out there.
So remember, everybody, giantrockpodcast.com. We're on 15 streaming platforms, iTunes, iHeartRadio. We're getting on Amazon here, so they're starting a podcast and where people could put their podcast up. So we're on everywhere, Spotify. You can find us on Facebook, Giant Rod Podcast. We have a group on there. Also, I have a documentary I've been working on for 5.5 years called No on Measure 9. It's about LGBTQ rights that happened in Portland, Oregon. Nirvana's in it. I interviewed Nirvana, the band. So I've been working on that. That's hopefully going to be on Showtime, but it takes about 7 years to put these things out, and I'm working out rights right now. So there's that out there too, folks. Please check.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for coming onto our show today, sharing your footage, sharing your story. It has been a wonderful interview, and we truly appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
You too. Blessing.
We'll see you next time.